Okay, hello everyone. We are in 2A. I don't know why it doesn't have a title at the top, but this is 2A, and there are two different things in section 2A. The goal of this activity is to use dimensional analysis to convert units. So just like when we were doing the fraction practice, if I had it in gallons but I wanted to know how many pints. And you probably heard the term of dimensional analysis in your high school science classes. It sounds really, really difficult, and it's really not. Okay, so the first thing we want to talk about are units. The units of a quantity describe what they measure or count. And my guess is at some point in your education, I know it's happened to me, that you've heard the phrase, what are your units? What are your units? What if you're answering 8? Does that mean 8 feet, 8 kilograms, 8 gallons? I mean, what does it mean? So we need to make sure that we define our units and know what we're talking about, because we're going from one unit to another. So the units that I would use to talk about going from Austin to San Antonio is miles, which is abbreviated MI. Now, what units would you use if you were buying a house and you want to know how large it is? Normally, you use square feet. And when we talk about that, well, we'll talk about how to write it. So we can describe units using the word or we can use an abbreviated form. So if we go miles per hour, it can be written as miles/hours or mph. Now, I tend to not use this. I think it's really helpful to write it as a horizontal fraction bar. So miles per hour. And since we just talked about a fraction means division, the per word means divide. So you want to buy some fabric. To calculate the unit price, you divide the price in dollars by the area in square yards. So again, I don't normally use this. I would use dollars divided by square yards. So I would write that as dollars per square yards. Now, this yard squared here, this means yard times yard. Remember, exponents are just a shortcut. So it would be multiplying the unit times itself, yard by yard. Okay, if you're looking at something in a line, it's one dimension. If you're looking at something squared, it's 2 dimensions. And so you've got a length and a width. So a square corresponds to a 2 exponent. If you use cubic, the exponent is going to be 3. So the flow rate of a river is 5,000 cubic feet per second. So we don't want to write just the units, so I'm going to write that as feet cubed per second. Remembering that feet to the third is equal to feet times feet times feet, which comes in really handy in our next section. Okay, the unit conversion. This is where we deal with the unit fractions. And this is the kind of conversion factor that we're going to use. We know that 12 inches is equal to 1 foot. Since they are the same, I can put them as 12 inches per 1 foot or 1 foot per 12 inches, and both of these, they are equivalent, so both of these equal 1. Now we cheated a little bit on the beginning part as well, and it says write all three forms of the conversion factor that we can use to convert between seconds and minutes. Okay, so let's see. I can do it either way, but I think it will be easier if I start with something seconds equals something minutes. Well, I think it's easier to do 60 seconds is equal to 1 minute. I could do it backwards and say 1 second is 1/60th of a minute, but I don't want to make anything harder than I need to. Since I have that equivalence, I can write that as a unit fraction. If they're equal, I can put one on top of the other, and I can write this as 60 seconds per 1 minute. Or I can write it as 1 minute per 60 seconds, and both of those equal 1. Okay, so now how am I going to do this? If I just go back, 1 minute or 1 second or that sort of thing, but, how many miles is a 5K? How many kilometers is a marathon? We know it's 26.2 miles, but how many kilometers is that? So, we want to be able to go back and forth. How many liters is a gallon? How many pounds is a kilogram? That sort of thing. So we want to be able to go back and forth between these things. So we're going to have to convert back and forth. So we're going to start by converting 20 feet per minute to feet per second. So if I start with 20 feet per minute, then I know that's 20 feet per 1 minute. So what they're given, this is my starting point. So that's what I'm going to start with. We want to take this and convert it to feet per second. So this is where I want to end. So this is going to be feet per second. All right, so let's see what I've got here. I've got feet, and I want to end up in feet. So this is okay. I don't need to do anything with this. But here I have a minute, and I need to convert it to seconds. So if I have a minute down here, if I can use one of these conversions that would have a minute in the numerator, then I can cancel them out. So I am going to choose this one here. I know that this is equal to 1, so if I can write this as 1 minute equals 60 seconds, then notice here what happens. The minutes cancel out. So in my numerator, I'm left with 20 times 1. And in the denominator, 1 times 60. So this becomes 20 feet divided by 60 seconds. And I can reduce that to 1 foot in 3 seconds. Now, if I wanted to go a step further, I could do that in a calculator. 1 divided by 3 gives me 0.3, and you have a bar on top of that because it's 0.333 repeating. And I could write that as feet per second. And here's something really good to start with. You're going to want to look at these and you're going to want to check your work and make sure you did everything that you were supposed to. Okay, so did you start with the given value? Yes. That's what was given, so that's what I started with. Did you end up with the correct units? I want feet per second. I always write down where I'm going first. All right, did the unnecessary units cancel? Yes, that's what I did here in the middle. And did you include the correct units in your final answer? Yes, I did. Okay. We'll stop here. Be back to go on to page 2.